Call this meeting to order. Stuart City Council special meeting, tentative agenda, Monday, July 26, 2021, 6 p.m. Council chambers call to order. Belden. Here. Renzo.
Here.
Glass.
Here.
Askren.
Here.
Kava.
Here.
Agenda approved. Need a motion. And I'm going to move number 6 up.
What is number 6?
Economic Development Director position. So C can
Okay.
talk about it and then they can move by Belden. Now second.
Second.
Second by Renzo. How do you vote? Belden?
Yeah.
Renzo?
Yes.
Glass?
Yes.
Askren?
Yeah.
Kava?
Yes.
Okay, number 6, Economic Development Director position. Warren?
I'm Warren Varley. I think most of you know who I am. I'm here on behalf of SEED, which is Stuart Enterprise for Economic Development. We're privileged to participate in the interview process for the Economic Development Director. And while we've always felt this is an important position, and Kristen Rensselaer did a premier job as our initial development director. Particularly right now, this is a tumultuous time for the city of Stuart. I'm sure most of you know, and as our agenda reflects, a number of businesses will be changing hands just in the next several months. We had a lot of representatives from the business community participate both the second and third rounds of the interview process, and the recommendation that we came to, which I think was concurred in by the whole interview committee, was that we recommend that Matt Funk be hired as the development director for Stuart. He came very well recommended, had a very powerful resume. As many of you know, he served on the city council here, so he has a good background and is ready to hit the ground running, representing the business community and moving the city forward. So I'd be happy to answer any questions you have about our recommendation.
I'm just happy to hear that the position was vetted so thoroughly, and I agree with you that Mr. Funk is an excellent candidate.
3 rounds of interviews is unusual, but it reflects that it was a difficult decision. We had really good candidates. If you know any of the other candidates who applied, whether they interviewed or not, we have very regard for everybody who applied. People who clearly love the city of Stuart, and we hope they remain involved and active, and I'm sure we'll have, there's a lot done for folks. So the recommendation of Matt should not reflect badly on any of the other candidates. They were all excellent candidates.
Okay. Thank you, Warren.
You bet.
Need a motion?
I'll make the motion to hire Matt
Moved by
Funk.
Renzo.
Second.
Second by Glass.
Yep, I was attempting to.
What's that?
My motion is to go ahead and hire Matt Funk
On the way.
at the wage of, I believe it was 53 even.
Yeah.
Right, Warren, 53.
And I seconded the motion.
Okay, moved and second. Okay, how do you vote? Belden?
Yes.
Renzo?
Yes.
Glass?
Yes.
Askren?
Yeah.
Kava?
Yes.
And if I could, I should have had Matt stand up,
Yes.
in case anybody doesn't know. And let's give him a round of applause. I think it's going to be a guy that
Okay, number 3, White Pole Road Maintenance.
Okay, we have, well, Steve.
Forrest.
Steve comes up. Thank you, Mayor. So I have a presentation to present to the council, and PowerPoint will be up on the screen, but I brought copies for everybody. I don't know if there's a way to get this to Mick somehow. I don't know.
Who is this?
This is Forrest,
Forrest.
Mick.
Where's the tree at?
Say again, Mick?
Where is the tree at?
No, I have a presentation to give.
We're on number 3, Mick.
Number 3.
White Pole
I
Road
don't have,
Maintenance.
I don't have anything.
White Pole Road Maintenance.
Thank you.
Okay, go ahead.
So this is about White Pole Road. If you go to the next slide, Mike, looking at the whole road, from All Saints at the east side of town to the west side of town at Adair. And we've been looking at this for quite a while, and the road conditions continue to deteriorate on Whitehall Road, or Front Street. It's Front Street as it goes through the city of Stuart. And so had Jim go through this spring and kind of did a condition assessment of the street. And that's just kind of, so you go to the next slide, some of the condition of the street. This was, we're having some drainage issues. And then this is kind of what we did, was we put a straight edge kind of going through town, or Jim put a straight edge, give credit where credit is due. Put a straight edge kind of looking at the road condition. So this is by the water tower. Next one is, this is west of, on the west side, west of Division. And you can kind of see that the vehicles are creating ruts in the road. Yeah, next slide. Creating ruts in the road and causing problems, and especially when you, in the spring and the fall, you get water trapped in there. Jim can't plow the divots in there, so that water sits in there, refreezes, and creates slick spots and continues to deteriorate the street. So here's some edge rutting going on. So we looked at some repair options. One option is to just put a asphalt overlay, just fill in the ruts. Couple $100,000. It's really truly a Band-Aid. Get us by for a couple, 2-3 years. Trying to put a hard mix in there so that it don't cause the rutting as bad. Is to mill that asphalt inches, do the drainage improvements. I know Councilman Askren is concerned about the crown in front of City Hall. Would fix that. So that would be, the $1.5 million option. That's kind of a longer term, 15 to 20 year.
But I guess just looking at your summary here, the Band-Aid approach is the same life expectancy per $100,000 as the other
Yes,
one.
right.
Plus the other one doesn't include the interest cost. I mean, just to point that out.
Right. Right, but that 200,000, of course, as inflation goes, it would increase
Sure.
every 2 to 3 years as well.
Yep.
So,
I got you.
So anyway, those are the couple options we looked at. Kind of depends on what fits into the council budget, and kind of looking at what those bonding costs might be. Really, the only source of funds for this is general obligation bonds for this. So go to the next slide. We were asked, what kind of what street improvements have been done on the truck routes over the last since 2008, so 10 to 15 years. North Division project cost was 1.33 million. That was going north out of town. And of that, about the pavement repair cost part of it, because there was other things that went on. We fixed some water mains and storm sewers and did some other things. But the pavement part of that was about 870,000. And then 2016, a little more recent for the council member, we redid the downtown area. But we also rebuilt Division between Second and Front. And that's about, of that $3 million or 2.92 million, that was about 750,000 to reconstruct that. And I moved those into 2021 dollars, assuming 3% inflation.
I thought we were just gonna talk about Whitehall Road. How did we get in $30 million?
No, this was just Councilman Askren. This is just kind of going back and looking at historically what other things the city has done, or other projects the city has done. So that's all this is, just kind of a history recap. Councilman Askren, not all of the council has been around, as long as you have, that remembers all this, so.
Yeah, I've heard most of it, yeah.
So that's why I'm just kind of doing kind of a recap. Next slide. So looking at this is a lot of numbers here, but basically, if you look at, we did a traffic count at Division and Front Street, and we looked at how many trucks are going through the intersection right here with that count. We looked at weights of passenger vehicles versus weight of trucks, and round numbers, as far as the number of trucks and the weight of the trucks compared to number of cars, which is a lot more, there's a lot more cars, but they're a lot lighter, ends up being about a 50-50 split between passenger vehicles and the trucks as far as the axle loads on the pavement causing the damage. So that's where that 50% came from. And then we just kind of took that 50% times each one of those projects. So, $200,000 for that first one, 50% trucks, 50% passenger vehicles, and half of that cost roughly is from the trucks and half is from the passenger vehicles. So that's kind of what this slide represents. So I'm just, we kind of rehashed this, or we went through this same thing 6 years ago. Some of you were on the council then, some of you were not, but 6 years ago, we still had the concerns about White Pole Road and the condition of the trucks. And 6 years ago, the council looked at restricting turning movements for trucks at the intersection of Front and Division, and then doing additional those trucks to get around the city, still be able to get where they need to go. So I didn't know if there's any interest from the council in revisiting that. So the next slide, this is the current truck routes that are around town. And regardless of what the council comes up with, I think we need to revisit this. So like, for example, North Second is a truck route, but we've extended North Second all the way out to Wambold. So technically, Wambold's on a truck route. So there are some changes we need to make regardless to this, even if the council doesn't make any changes. Some of these things need to be looked at again. I think this was 1998 was the last time these were looked at. So lots happened in the community. What the council looked at in 2016 is the next slide, where they kind of cleaned that up. They restricted the movements of the truck traffic at the intersection of Front and Division, and then added truck routes North 10th at the top, and then allowing the trucks to go through on Southwest 8th, which would be, by Carl Chevrolet, Wausau, and then out west of town. So,
Or if they were coming, so this wouldn't restrict anything if they're coming down Highway 6.
Brian,
Right.
I can't understand what you're saying. Will you speak up, please?
I said this, I was talking to him, but this wouldn't restrict truck traffic going down Highway 6 then if they're coming.
east-west, no, if they're going straight through town, east-west, if they're going straight through town, north-south, they can continue to do that. If they're making a delivery in town, they can continue to do that.
Gotcha.
This is just through traffic, restricting the turn movements at the intersection. But the truck routes east-west, north-south, going through town would still remain. And that's what the discussion was in 2016, was this. So just kind of bringing that up again, seeing if the council is interested in looking at this again, revisiting. You know, so that's kind of where we're at, kind of looking at, where we're at with things, looking for guidance from, you know, the council. Do nothing, a couple $100,000, kind of a short-term kind of thing, do a long-term, more than $1.5 million, and then, you know, is there interest in revisiting this, you know, the redoing the truck routes through the city that was contemplated back 5 years ago.
I'd like to put something in there if I could. I was told, probably 6 or 7 years ago, I was told the truck pay a food tax. It's $500 a year for every truck that goes down the road. They pay a road tax, and it's probably a lot less than that by now. Where does all those funds go to? Why are we paying for, this used to be a state road, I know it got handed up. But what about those tax funds?
Councilman Asker, you're breaking up a little bit, but I think what you're saying is, you know, there are road use tax funds paid for by, you know, trucks and passenger vehicles, and where do those road use tax funds go? And can those road use tax funds be used to pay for these street improvements? Is that kind of what you were asking?
Yeah, exactly.
I guess that would be a question for Ash. I would be surprised that the proportion of road use tax funds that the city collects would be enough to pay for this with all the other demands that the city has for those funds. But I would defer to Ash or to Chip as far as, you know, what the use are for the road use tax
That's fine,
funds
it was
right
just
now.
a question, it was just a mid-debate, we have time.
Okay,
How was that distributed?
the road use tax
Yeah.
funds?
It's based on census, right?
Per capita.
So
Okay,
if
per
it's
person.
disproportionate damage from roads or damage from excessive truck traffic, that's not going to increase because of that. It's only paid by the population base, right?
Yeah, that's, I guess that's.
And fuel sales, so, yeah.
Do you want to repeat that? Brian, will you repeat what you said, and Chip, will you repeat the response? Because I cannot hear what you're saying. You talk so fast and mumble, and I can't hear it.
I'm not mumbling, Chip heard me.
Well, just speak up a little bit more.
So he was asking about, how are those dollars calculated? They're calculated on a statewide basis, and then the road use tax funds are distributed on a per capita basis. There's a certain pool of the statewide money that goes to counties, there's a certain pool that goes to cities, and there's a certain pool that goes to the state. And they're used for various road projects. The road use tax was increased 5 or 7 years ago. And it's a good revenue source for the city, but it's used for a lot of maintenance projects, so.
So we have revenue from that road tax,
You
but
do,
it goes into our general fund.
I think it goes into a special revenue fund.
Road use fund, what's the
Okay.
road use fund?
So how much of that road use fund can be applied to a project like this?
As much as
We have other roads to worry about than this one, though. And that's what the whole point of this, if you were paying attention on this prior page, it shows there's been over $1 million spent trying to keep up with this. And are these bonds still on the books? Do we still owe on these bonds?
One of them.
Well,
Okay.
Brian, I agree with you,
Okay.
but I'm just trying to get clear on, you know, what kind of money we have available to us, that's all.
We-
But I agree with you that,
We don't have money available for this, is the whole point. That's why we've been trying to figure this out for, Jim, how many roads do you have planned to asphalt this year?
Right now, this year, we're pushing them until 2022, but I've got probably another 13 or 15 blocks of asphalt to do.
Do we pay salaries out of that as well?
Yes,
Do we pay winter expenses
Maintenance and buying.
and equipment?
salt,
and-
sand, equipment,
Everything.
everything comes out of there.
So,
And the amount that we're taking in just isn't enough to really offset that.
No.
You know,
So that's why we borrowed 2 times in 2008, 2016 to fund these expenses. And it's just not a perpetual option. And if you notice on that, the numbers just keep getting larger. On
Right.
page, what page is this is this one, exhibit one, page 9, it specifically says, under option 1, it's 500, 400,000. And if we go with option 2, it doubles again. And what's the cost if this continues through South Division Street? How much is that gonna cost to replace that road?
That was, I gave that number out, it was like
It's
millions.
3.5 to 4
Yeah,
million.
3 to 4
Okay,
million.
So now we're talking 4 times. And so this road, if we bond for this road, the life of the road improvement's gonna last the life of the bond. So by the time we pay it back, we're gonna pay it back again and fix it again. I don't know.
Well, I agree with you.
Well, I'm just-
I think you're perfectly correct.
I'm not
in
looking for
saying that
anybody
this
to
is
agree with me,
not-
I'm just looking for a solution.
Well,
There isn't a
I
good
think
one.
it's clear that this is not a project that's really practical for us to take on at this time. I think the things that we looked at as far as providing other routes, if we're gonna really put money into roads, let's put them in other routes that are not so critically impacted by this street. I mean, why fix this street when we know that the trucks are gonna keep using this street?
Because, I mean, there is the obligation that, I mean, I think the forest recommendation for option 1, I think that makes sense. We do have to fix this road. Chip, what would be the tax increase on a bond basis for option 1?
It's about the levy impact is about $1.05 per thousand. It's roughly 10% higher than the existing levy.
Okay, so what about option 2, that's 5 times the cost?
The levy goes up about $2.45. That's, it's roughly 20% increase.
So 20% increase to our taxpayers. Yeah, I mean, and this, again, we go borrow this money, we fix this road, we pay it off, go do it again, you know? And it won't be the same numbers, because as Forrest mentioned, you've got inflation. Yeah,
But I think as it sits right now, it's a huge safety hazard.
Exactly.
yeah, absolutely,
Yeah, I mean,
sure.
There wasn't any pictures down by the alley by R&D, but that one, you literally come out of the alley and you sink down and you come back up and then you go back down. I mean, it's really bad down there. So it's a huge safety issue throughout the whole road. So I don't think it's a question of when to do it, it's how to do it.
Right.
And what's the right financial way to go about it. So I didn't know if you had run numbers.
Nothing beyond this, no.
Yeah, I think it's a point where when we do something, if we spend the money on it, you still have to consider the option of
She
restricting.
just said,
the
Right.
change your,
Right.
change your
You know,
ways,
Because
you know?
you just can't let it, they're still gonna be able to go east and west, so it's gonna get some. But you gotta do something to minimize that impact on that, you know, so,
So I mean,
but which is the right one, yeah.
on page 10, that map is much cleaner than page 9.
Yeah.
Or sorry, maybe it was 11.
11.
Sorry, 11 is cleaner than 10. And then it would deal with what you're talking about with second extension as well.
Chip, is there money available through LMI on the new housing for the project like this, and
Not for this.
not for this?
So is the goal tonight to figure out which option that we would like to go with and then pursue
Yeah.
looking at this
something.
map and trying to
Yep.
figure out something to
Something gotta
prevent
be
it from happening, to create more problems?
That's, I agree, yes.
And
That's
would
to
we-
me. I mean, I
Would
don't
we
know
be
what
able to
else
get this done this year? Or,
Not at this, I would highly doubt it at this stage of the game, because most of your contractors have already got more work on the books than they can get done.
We have to have some conversations with some contractors to see what they have, what their schedule looks like.
okay.
But it's something that we could visit about. I mean, if we go ahead and make a decision that, yes, we want to go with option 1 and then see how, and then work on this map and make sure this is the, the exact route that we want, but we can start proceeding with option 1, we can see where these contractors are at.
in August.
Yeah,
Is that what you're saying?
option 1, like I said,
Possibly.
possibly option 1, but option 2 wouldn't have to wait until next
Option
year.
2, we can't forward. Option 1, we shouldn't try to make work because, again, there's no permanent solution here, but I mean, it at least provides a little bit of, it's Band-Aid, like you said.
Forrest, do you have any drainage work figured into option 1?
No.
Then we're not gonna solve much, because we've still got areas where the shoulders are higher than the road surface, we're not gonna get rid of the water.
Option 1 isn't really a fix at all.
Right.
Gotta get
That's
the water-
what he's saying.
Right.
Gotta
we
get the
understand
water
that,
off the road.
But right
That's
now,
part
it's
of
a
the problem.
safety issue. I mean, altogether.
Well, I think we're in agreement that option one is not really a practical solution.
Option one, is it, or option two?
Well, our road department people just said, if we do option one, it's not gonna correct the water on the road problem.
You're wasting
And
your money
as far
if you're
as-
not doing shoulders.
As far as, bumps from alleys or bumps on the roadway, I don't think that is a necessary safety issue. Because if you look at any contemporary residential area, they build in speed mounds. So that when you go from one block to another, you go up and down, and the reason for that is to slow traffic. So if our road is a little bumpy, then maybe we decrease our speed limit and the trucks have to slow down. I mean, if there are places where it is a definite safety issue, I think that needs to be pointed out separately, as opposed to not taking in the long-range plan that we just passed and having some agreement on other routes that can work for heavy equipment travel. I don't think that this little strip here is worth investing money in, that much money, until we can look at that long-range plan, see where we're gonna put in bicycle paths, other things that we have in that plan, and talk about where are the trucks gonna go? Where are the trucks gonna turn that will not impact our downtown area or,
So
you know,
I think,
it just seems to me like this is
Jim's
not the
got
think-
time.
something to-
but when I think when you say bumps, you're thinking as you're traveling down a road this way, you're thinking that you're gonna go over bumps this way. What's happening is when it rains or it snows and it gets slick, you're sliding through the thing because the ruts are continuous this way as you're driving.
Something needs-
You're not driving over them and then it's gone. It's a
They're called
constant,
divots.
well, there you go, they're
You're
called
being pulled
divots.
into, you're being pulled
You're
into the
being
left and the
pulled.
right because of the,
And you can't
road damage,
maintain,
right.
especially when the roads are wet or snow or ice or whatever.
If you've ever driven on like a,
I believe since I'm 6 years old or 10 years old, we rode our bicycles through the same distance, the same little bump you guys are talking about. And I mean, it's just something that you have to look at that whole area. You have to look at the gravel, the shoulder, every bit of it right through there. You're gonna have to get all that fixed. Not just gonna be a big flop and asphalt, a little asphalt over it.
Okay, Jim.
As Christina was elaborating, the safety concern is more from the wheel track area. Once you get in it, it's throwing you back and forth in icy conditions. And also, I've heard numerous comments from motorcyclists that it is very dangerous on a motorcycle because it's bouncing you continuously side to side in those wheel tracks.
And one of the worst on the water on the side is near Landis and west of
R&D.
R&D.
and that's where you're concerned on the shoulder side.
Yes.
Is that something?
Because
you
they
guys
have
can
hauled so
figure
much
out?
rock in down here at Landis that it's like this down to the pavement surface. So the water just pools in there, just like it used to going through downtown Dexter. It used to be,
That with some hairy intakes and some drainage pipe, just to get that water out of there instead of just standing. So yeah, that's something we could address as well, but it's not, I'll still call it's a Band-Aid, it's a better Band-Aid, I guess.
Jim, do you think
Well,
that
I
with
mean,
this first, those two areas of concern with some drainage, that the first one may be, I mean, I know it's only a Band-Aid, but
it's exactly that. If you look at what's been done east and west, I mean, I
That's what's
can't
been
remember
done,
how
yeah.
long ago that's been, but there's places of it that are starting to chunk out, so. Yeah, it's a very short-term solution.
And really, I think the concern is, we know it's not fixing it. That is, if we go with the second one, it's like, if you look at all the money that we spent, that Forrest put in this presentation shows the amount spent due to increased truck traffic to fix the roads. Now we're going to do that again, yet again, due to that increased truck traffic. And how do we raise the taxes on our community members because of this truck traffic, that they're not driving that through there? I mean, south, you're still gonna get some damage, and then 10 years later.
I guess that's, yeah, I mean, I agree. I'd like to consider the shoulder issues and the turning restriction and your map. I'd like that all to be pursued, because I think that push out the 2 to 3 years to maybe 4 or 5. And so maybe it lasts a little bit
Maybe in a
longer.
few years, I mean, maybe we'll have more options and can be brainstorming within those years
I
to
sure
come up
wouldn't want
with
to
a
tell the
better.
taxpayers are raising their taxes 20% for a road that they're,
Yeah.
I don't think that'd be a story I'd want to.
You see, Jim?
Oh, go ahead, Jim.
Just keep in mind that this is not the only road that there's an issue with. North Division is turning that way. When you drive up the street, if you hear your tires going thump, 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 that's because every panel of that concrete is tipping. So this isn't the only issue. That's just the tip of the iceberg.
Maybe if we do this option one with this one,
Just saying.
we can just take, I mean, we can take a good look at what streets, North Division, and then this at a bigger picture and come up with a bigger plan over the next 3 years, knowing that we're gonna have to redo it again. But it won't, I don't know.
I really don't think we're even ready to pursue option one because of the fact of all of the accompanying problems with the water issue, and there's an alley issue, obviously, Christina pointed out. There are contingencies that need to be part of the plan. So accepting the plan as written at this point, I think just is jumping the gun. I think we need to have a better idea of how we're going to remedy the water problem, so on and so forth, on the sides of the road. And then talk about laying down pavement.
And I think Forrest and Jim are able to talk through that, is what they had just said. So.
Yeah, I thought we just addressed that they were gonna look into those issues. That what was put in this presentation is not set in stone. It's like, that's why we were talking to you guys to address that.
Is there any way that maybe we can look more towards option one and come back in August after Forrest and Jim and Corey have all got together and discussed to see if maybe there's a few things that we can
Add to the shoulder.
add to the shoulders, make some adjustments. It's not gonna add another $1 million on it,
Right.
but, might at least help out, and we can start looking at a bigger plan, but we can at least get something in motion, because, I think we've been talking about redoing this road for quite a while. And we're getting to the point now, we're starting to narrow down the important parts of it and what it's gonna cost.
Yeah, I forgot to say, but first of all, thank you for putting this together, because it's very,
Yeah.
it's
Okay,
got good.
we'll
I'd like
table-
to make that motion to look at number one and go back to the proposal you had from 2016, the turning restrictions, and then your map that you mentioned you had concerns with the extension of Second Street or whatever. It's on page 11.
The truck route.
Oh, yeah.
And the wall issue.
Okay, and then address the shoulder issues that Jim had. So that gives you the authority to talk to these contractors you're talking to, and so we can get.
But can we also make sure that Jim's included in these turning restrictions and these truck routes, and to make sure that they maybe have a little bit of firmer.
So there's the
I would
motion.
think this man would like to do it in this.
Make one to be included.
Sure.
What I was gonna say is, in part of that motion, I can work with Jim, figure out the drainage issues, what are the solutions for those drainage issues, kind of some rough costs for those. add those to the option number one, and come back at the August meeting with that. And so if it's not 200,000, what is that number? What are those drainage improvements? Come back at the August meeting. We can talk to some asphalt contractors, see what their workload looks like. I can definitely do that. If the council is interested in looking at redoing the truck routes, then that is really more direction to give to city attorney to look at those options.
So
really.
can you guys work together on that part of it? I mean, since,
Yes, but Steve, Rick,
Just
we
need
need,
authority in your motion.
okay, so that, does this give it to you?
Well, you'd have to put.
I put turning restrictions.
yeah, but
I don't know what you
that's
need
not
to do.
something that,
Okay.
you
Oh,
know,
that's
there's
fine.
an ordinance and a process of how that gets done.
Yeah.
And really, your attorney is more prepared to do that than I.
For the-
And,
I'm just putting it all together.
and Jim can still work with Steve on those turning restrictions, right?
Yeah, shoulder issues,
Okay.
routes, map, turning restrictions, and option one for road.
I want to make sure that Jim's involved, so that way we have, you know, I mean, he's the one that's out there on the streets every day and plowing them and doing all this stuff.
Okay. Okay, that motion was
Okay,
moved by
hold on.
Ryan.
You may read it again.
Do you want to?
Okay, read it again, are you okay?
I'm okay with it. Okay, Neil.
You may have to read it again so Mick and
Yeah.
Teresa can hear all of it.
Do you get, or, no, yes?
No, I'm okay with it.
I'm just asking.
No, and I'm okay with it. I just don't know if Mick.
All right,
Did
so,
we get me added to the list?
Okay.
What was
Say
that?
it again, Mick, I can hear what you said.
I said, did we get Nick added to the list of people that, involved with this big project?
He wants to know if
Yes.
his name got
It
added.
is, yeah, your name's on
Yeah,
there.
yeah,
All right.
okay,
okay, so
Go ahead.
read that again or no?
read it again.
Yeah, so it's a motion to pursue option one of your proposal. And the turning restrictions in your presentation and your truck route in your presentation. And you'll discuss shoulder issues with Jim.
And drainage, shoulder and drainage.
Sorry, I will have that. Sorry. And then Forrest, Steve, Jim, Mike, and Mick will be
Committee.
I don't know, guys, come on.
He's a committee.
Okay.
That'd be fine.
Yeah,
Okay,
and so the only thing I would like to add to this is the estimated tax increase.
that's,
Estimated tax increase was
Did you
what on
have a
option
question,
one?
Teresa, yes.
About
For part of it.
$1.05.
$1.05, 10,
About
What
10%.
percent?
8%.
About 8%, okay. So, and then I'd like to add that we decline,
I don't know if you want to leave that, it's going to change.
I have to put an estimate. So decline option two.
Okay, Brian, can you stop for a second? So Teresa's asking if we formally have made Steve Brick our attorney. And Ash was trying to explain to her that
Thank
for
you, Christina.
certain projects, we use certain attorneys. And so Steve has been very involved in this part of it. Beverly's been doing all of our nuisance stuff, like Burger King and stuff like that. So we have 3 attorneys, maybe 3 attorneys that we work with. It just depends on which portion of the stuff that we're working on, do we use which attorneys.
So is the total amount still capped at $13,000?
$13,000.
$13,000 per year?
For general
For
legal
general,
services.
for general,
For general legal services, yeah.
Sure.
That's-
those are special projects.
Well, you know, the whole development with Carl's Chevrolet and Casey's and all that, Beverly Wild was our city attorney who planned all that, which was a huge project. The other new business that we have out there was Beverly. So I'm just not clear on what Steve Brick's function is at this point. It's never been made clear to me as a council member. And Brian, you're the one that asked for a cap of $13,000.
For general legal services, because we don't need
Well,
an
what-
attorney at every meeting. We don't
How
need-
much money are we spending for, how many lawyers did you say we have that we're calling city attorneys? We've got Beverly, we've got Steve Brick, who else do we have?
John Danos is our bonding.
John Danos,
But John doesn't do what Beverly does, and John doesn't do what Steve does.
but this is the first, Beverly did do all that.
No, she didn't.
Beverly's never, ever done any of our bonding work. That's
No, I didn't
always been
say
John.
God, Christina, please let me talk. What I'm saying is, you wanted to put a cap on how much we pay attorneys in this city. You were adamant about
Absolutely.
putting a cap
Correct.
on how much we're paying attorneys. So I want to know year Beverly Wild has been our city attorney, our official city attorney, and she has done all of the road planning and all that huge improvement. What happened? I mean, how did Steve get in the picture here? Because the last time I heard of Steve, you were sending some questions to him here and there, but now all of a sudden he appears here and is being called our city attorney. So where's the money coming from to pay for him? Does Beverly still have $13,000 that she spends per year? What is Steve's
Are you
cap?
trying to get Beverly hired, or I mean, what?
I just don't understand. And what it seems like to
He's
me
here-
is.
He's here for
that
this
he's on the
agenda item.
agenda.
He's here to discuss this truck route, and
Brian,
it's that simple.
Question. Answer the question, Brian.
Answer what question, Mike?
Why is Rick here now and Beverly's out?
Beverly's not out.
Then why isn't Beverly here? Why isn't she part of
Because she
this?
doesn't have an agenda item. If we were talking about Burger King or Mark
She's
Klein's
working on Burger King
building,
right now.
or if she was working on something in particular and we needed her here, she would be here. But if Steve was asked to come for this specific issue. If it was a bonding issue, then John Danos would be here.
John who?
Right.
Danos,
No, but
Danos?
Beverly normally
Danos, Danos.
can't work Steve Rick. Why?
But why Steve Brick
Mhm.
here and now on this issue instead of Beverly? And and also I want to know, where's the money coming from? You wanted to cap,
We've already talked about that. We talked about this 5 minutes ago. General legal services
No, we haven't.
Have
Let's
to
fix
be-
it, Brian.
have to be capped at 13.
okay,
We're
general
managing for
legal
that.
services has to be capped at 13,000.
Correct.
How much are we paying Mr. Brick per year?
How many meetings have you been to this year? 2 or 3?
I think two.
2 meetings.
I think
We don't
Forrest has some,
involve him or Beverly unless we need him to.
I think Forrest has something to say.
Just as background information, Councilman Glass, Steve Brick was, when we looked at this in 2016, when this, the restricting the turning movements at the intersection and redoing the truck routes, Steve Brick was the attorney involved with those actions at that time. So there's some history with Mr. Brick that he brings to this conversation because he has that information from before. So that, I'm not answering your question, I'm just providing you additional information that you may not be aware of.
That he has history with paving here.
Yes.
Okay.
But I also, Mr. Brick on this particular issue is not, this is not a general legal
No.
fund question. This is something, a special project, just like we had special projects for Beverly, that when she did Casey's, it was a special set of funds, and Carl's was a special set of funds. It wasn't general legal services.
So do we have a cap
On
on
general,
attorney's fees for Mr. Brick and Mr. Danos like we do on Beverly?
We don't have
Well,
a
if
cap on
Beverly-
Beverly.
Yeah, if Beverly does a special project, she doesn't.
We have a cap on Beverly of $13,000
That's our
per
general
year.
No,
budget
no.
cap on legal expenses for general legal services, regardless of who that goes to. It's general legal services. It doesn't matter who the attorney would be that specializes
So
in
that,
that
that
area.
covers, that $13,000 per year covers Beverly Wild, Mr. Brick, and Mr. Danos.
If it's a general legal service, yeah.
What, excuse
Okay,
me,
I'd like to
what
see
does
an accounting of that.
John, whatever his name is, do?
he's a bonding, do you want to answer what John Danos does?
Can we,
This is-
Do we
I
have
mean,
a
this is
second
not on
one?
the
If you want
agenda.
to change legal services or something, we need to have that on the agenda. Change that.
Well, it seems to me like you
So, a quick
changed
answer.
legal services already by having Mr. Brick
He
here.
works on
Susie.
without pedigree.
Just by having him here and having him sit at the council, it seems like you changed legal services without any okay with the council.
We haven't changed. They specialize in different things. Steve specializes in this. Beverly has got the Burger King. She's working on the pool hall, the vacant building that got caught on fire.
I know what
working on all
I
that.
understand what she's working on right now, but I also know the wide range of things that she has done in the past 5 years. So, she's not here. Mr. Brick is here, and Mr. Brick is sitting at the council table. It is unclear to me what has transpired that Beverly is not here and is not part of this to advise us. But Mr. Brick is sitting at the council table
Mr.
and
Brick,
is
are you sitting in
being
my chair?
called our city attorney. I don't know that he is our city attorney because we have not ever changed city attorneys as far as I know. Beverly is our city attorney.
We made a motion in what,
We did-
February
we did
or
actually
March, that to use 3
options,
attorneys
yeah,
and use
options.
options. And so Steve may not be here next month or the following month. It just so happens that this is the agenda item and he's here because of that. And if we have an agenda item next month that involves Beverly, Beverly will be asked to come if we need her here.
We gave that up to Ash's discretion.
Mr. Brick, are you sitting in my chair?
I am.
I would appreciate if you tipped your rear end down.
I'm just keeping it warm for you.
Can we,
I'd like to.
can we move on?
I would like to see an accounting of how much we're paying all these lawyers.
All you have to do is go, Michael,
It's
get
in our
it to you
packet.
tomorrow.
And it's in our packet every month.
Every month.
Okay.
It's in there.
Okay, we have a motion moved by Guthrie.
I'll second that.
Hold on. I had in there, I wanted
Okay.
to estimate a tax
Come on.
increase for option 1 at 8%. And then I wanted it to decline option 2, which is an estimated what percentage tax increase?
It's approximately 18 to 20% in that range.
Estimated tax increase of 20%, and we're declining option 2 in that.
And I would be in favor of that, Brian, if you could add that if we can remediate those other contingencies besides pavement.
It's in,
He's-
it's
It's
in the motion.
He's got it in the motion.
Okay, will you read it one more time?
Sure. Option 1 is what we're moving forward with, and that's an estimated tax increase of 8%. It's to look at turning restrictions and the truck routes, shoulder and drainage issues, which is what you're talking about. And then Forrest, Steve, Jim, Mike, and Mick will work towards something in August
Yes.
and report back to us.
Okay,
And then
so,
I'm not done, so I don't have to read this again in
Sorry.
5 minutes. And then we're declining option 2 for an estimated 20% tax increase. We're declining
16.8%.
16.8.
Okay, so we have motion and second.
I seconded it.
Yes. How do you vote? Belvin?
Yes.
Renzo?
Yes.
Glass?
yes,
Askren?
Yes.
Kavah?
Yes,
4. Update on downtown economic grant business?
Right.
You doing this, Brian?
Yeah, so, 2 meetings ago, I asked for the okay to pursue a few of these, downtown business grants, or forgivable loans, whatever structures. Only 3 of those, I think there were 7 at that time. There's 3 of those that I just wanted to see if everybody was still okay pursuing, so, they could put framework together for the August meeting.
And this
What are
is with
those
our
3?
attorney, John Danos,
This is
correct?
with our attorney, John Danos, that has nothing to do with what Steve.
what
did.
are those 3?
I'll get to that.
Okay.
I was just helping Christine to clarify things before. Kate Adams is one, would be a new business. Tiernan Brothers is another. And then, what was the third one?
Joe Deere.
Yeah, Doe Deere is a third.
And what is Kate Adams' business?
Would be gifts.
Say it again,
It's gifts,
gifts,
gifts.
GIFTS?
Yeah, it's just like a merchandising.
And where would that be?
I'm not sure yet.
It's-
We can
it's
get all
still-
that information if she provides it in the August meeting.
Okay.
she'll have
And
that.
Tiernan Brothers, where would that be?
I think they're still working on it. And I think what Brian's asking is, these are the three out of this, two meetings ago, I think you were on vacation, but we approved Brian to go ahead and work with John to get preliminary things started with 7 different businesses, and it's only panned out to 3 that want to continue to pursue. And so he's just asking to go that next step with those 3.
So we don't forget between now and August about this.
So we can continue conversations and start getting things
Yeah.
firmed up, so they can come and say, this is who I am, this is what I want to do, and this is where I'm gonna go.
And what was the third one?
Doe
I think,
Oh, dear.
I think at that point in time,
Hang on.
Go ahead, man.
okay, I think at that point in time, when they're ready to go, I think they need to come to the entire council, not just Ron, not just you, entire council, and explain to us what they would like to do, and let the entire council make that type of decision.
Well, I think,
Yeah.
I think Reagan did, I mean, to be fair, I
Well,
think
yeah,
Reagan
sure,
did that
yeah,
the last time
yeah.
when she was pursuing Morrison, she came and explained what she was doing.
And also,
And so did Alicia Guile with,
Nick, what
daycare.
John Dennis has prepared too is like a template of the business proposal. And it basically lays out what's exists today or what would be new. And so, and it asks for the funds, the terms. It says what they're going to do with their business and, you know, all their expenses and stuff. So what you can expect. I've talked to all 3 of these folks, and Christina, I think you talked to one of them. But they're, I mean, adding this to their value, whatever grant we give them, they're willing to add to their tax assessed value. So, I mean, this is a, you know, it's not like it's a.
Well, they won't mind coming to the rest of the council, Brian, and breaking this down.
And this is something that we have kind of, I mean, some of us have kind of undertook because we didn't have an economic development position. So
Yeah, actually,
now that Matt has been hired,
There
this
you
is
go.
something that Matt can take on and
Yeah.
continue to work on this stuff. So that way we don't have to.
Yeah.
And continue those conversations and,
How are they gonna do that without you, Christina?
what did you just say?
Say that again, Mick, you're cutting out.
Then how are they gonna do that without you, Christina?
Now that's inappropriate.
Oh,
Do you have anything else?
Do we need a motion to allow him to?
We'll see.
So, yeah,
Moved by
I'll second it.
Cobal, second by Renslow. How do you vote? Belden?
Yep.
Renslow?
Yes.
Yes.
Glass?
Yes.
Askren?
No.
Cobal?
yes.
Okay. All Saints Edition
I think
project.
there's a lot of stuff getting involved with just one person or 2 people. And
Here we go.
I think all this stuff needs to be brought to the entire council, and not just 1 to 2 people.
Mick, when you ran your restaurant, did you come to the council when you got your TIF grant?
Yes, I did.
Okay, all right. Well, we didn't have Kristen at that point, so Matt will be following up with those folks.
And Mick, it's.
Because
it's-
Kristen's been gone
I'm
for
not
4 months.
talking about Kristen, I'm talking about Christina.
Yeah, he's talking about me trying to put my nose in everything, as he's just said. But the problem is that I'm at every meeting, just like Mike Kaba is, just like Brian Belden is. And we can only do so much with the people here. And if we need to move
I'm
things
in every-
forward, excuse me, I need to finish speaking. Some of us need to step up and actually do the work. And it was just like when you said you were gonna help out with the economic development position, and then you didn't show to the interviews. I mean,
To the goddamn hospital.
not at that point, but
Let's
it's,
move on.
Number 5.
All Saints grading. Are you talk about this for us?
So this is probably some old history. We, in the All Saints edition, we did the grading plan, we ran out of dirt. The general contractor wanted a lot more money to do this. We found a local contractor that could finish the grading on like 3 lots out there. And that work is done as authorized by the council. It's the same amount that was authorized by the council. And so this is just authorizing payment for that.
I'll make that motion.
Okay,
So moved.
thank you. Moved by
Second.
Brian, second by Glass. How do you vote? Belden?
Yep.
Renslow?
yes.
Glass?
Yes.
Askren?
Yeah.
Cobal?
Yes.
Okay, 7 dead tree located at 211 North Fremont Street.
I asked for this to put
Yeah.
on, and it's not so much in particular of this particular tree, it's just kind of an overview. So it did come up with this one because a concerned citizen did reach out to the city and ask for the city to clean up the tree. And I had been following up with Jim and City Hall to see what was being done because it is down, it's in the sidewalk, it is a hazard, I get it. Jim said that it was alive when it was standing, it fell over in the storm. He is obligated to push it out of the street. And then it sat there so long that it's now dead. And the nuisance violations have been, a nuisance violation needed to be sent, and so I volunteered to go ahead and make that nuisance through City Hall. And it was sent to the property owner. And I think as of today, from when talking to Jim, the second one has been with the cost assessment, but the reason why I brought it up is that some people have some confusion on, well, the tree's down and it's in my yard, the city needs to clean it up, but it's not city policy or anything for any time any tree falls in the street, it's the street department goes in, pushes it out of the street, the property owner cleans it up at their expense. It's always been that way. The tree has no growth on it when standing, then, and it's in the city right away, then the streets will clean it up and tear it, we'll cut it down. So with the concerned citizen asking for the city to do that, I just want to make sure it's clear that that wasn't our responsibility to take care of that tree because it was alive and standing. Because if we do it for one, you're going to open it up to anybody else in town that has a tree that's going to fall over and they're going to want the city to clean it up. And that's going to be a large, large expense every time. And it was brought up, Perry cleaned up during the derecho. Well, that was a special circumstance. They also had FEMA money coming in to help clean that up also. But that's a completely different, scenario than what one tree or maybe two trees come down. So, I don't know.
And we've got a bid right now to clean that up and the notices to be sent out to the owner,
What's the bid?
$450.
And it's for the city to clean it up.
And who's the owner?
I'm the owner. I just got the letter today.
The first nuisance.
Do you
First name.
want to make a comment
I
about
want to
this?
make a comment. Isn't it,
Can I interrupt you for a second?
sure.
We do broadcast this, so we'd like to have
Okay.
everybody that speaks
Oh,
come to the
Sorry.
microphone, please. Thank you, I appreciate that.
I was on vacation, so that's why I never got.
Can you state your name? Just take us-
Mark Tibbs,
Mark,
yeah.
okay.
So, I got notified by 3 people that a tree had fallen, and I usually don't respond much back on when I'm on vacation. So, anyway, and one was from Karen Varley, and I asked whose responsibility is that, because it fell in the city street. And if anybody's ever saw the tree, it's hollow. I mean, it's, and, she said, I'll just get back to you, that it is, the city's responsibility because of, it was diseased, So, and then, I think Christina, you said you contacted me 3 times?
No, I contacted Jim to ask if somebody had contacted you, because
Okay,
it's not my job to contact you.
okay.
But I asked Jim, hey, has the property owner been notified? So that way,
And I
we
was. I
can't
was
just
once.
assume that that's because it's a rental house.
Yes,
And so I wanted to make sure before I made the complaint to City Hall that it hadn't been cleaned up, that you were notified.
but it says,
So, hold on.
Yes.
So you're the owner that's done all the improvements to the house?
Yeah.
That looks great, thank you.
but anyway, it says it's pretty straight that a dead tree in the city is the responsibility. And it is interesting that the city accepts that it is my responsibility to clean it up. And then they pushed it onto the sidewalk, which if they would have pushed it onto the right of way, or then they pushed it into the neighbor's yard too. And I got a call today from Mike Johnson. So I don't know whose responsibility is it. You said that you haven't taken care of it, but is it in city code that way?
Jim.
That's a good question. It's a good question. But, yeah, yeah.
It's gotta be dead or diseased. It was not dead when the wind caught it. We had a tremendous wind that night, and it blew it over.
So if it fell today, you would clean it up? Is that what you're saying?
I think when you get to the dead or diseased, it's as it's standing,
No.
the tree has to, no, I'm just, that's why we brought it up, because there's been a lot of back and forth and some things, and like I said, it wasn't particular just about you, it was just a general, because this question comes up a lot, and I wanted clarification on what needed to be
Oh, I
done.
want clarification.
Sure. More than
You
anybody.
know, and I mean, I'd clean up if it's mine, but it's just one of the things.
What- Ash, do you know the city code? If it's,
Section
if it's dead or
13510.
diseased,
Oh, hang on.
it says city responsibility. Well, if you look at that tree, you can drive by and look at that tree. It's visibly hollow and diseased.
I haven't even been by it.
But would you have known that if it was still upright?
I think.
I wouldn't have known because did not see it beforehand, but I'm just saying, if it would have been, if you would have looked at it before,
The whole top was
okay.
kind of,
And then is the procedure that if you feel like you have a dead tree, you should contact City Hall and have them look at it? I don't know, I'm just
That's your
asking.
interpretation. The policy has been since before I came here, if the tree is in the right of way and it shows no live growth, the city will remove it. They will grind the stump and fill it in. That's been the policy since before I came here. That's what's been followed
So-
today.
So
And
then,
that's what I'm trying to
So
clarify.
That's what's been
is it
followed
growth on the
today.
tree or not?
Well,
Not alive,
but
that was.
I
You
think.
still have
also-
live vegetation.
I also think, policy and actual code are two different things. We can have a policy that goes contrary to what the code says. It could have been set up, would that be right? You could have a certain policy, but it's different in the code,
Mike's exactly right. And I'm concerned about this because it's not just an issue. I mean, it bothers me because it's right next to my business. It's blocking the sidewalk. The city's obligated to keep not only the street clear, but the sidewalk clear. There's no distinction in the code of Iowa. The city ordinance is section 135.10. And it talks about what the parking is, the area between the curb and the sidewalk. And the abutting property owner shall not be required to remove diseased trees or dead wood on publicly owned property or right of way, which all the parking is that right of way between the sidewalk and the curb. That's the responsibility of the city. Diseased tree or dead wood. Well, it doesn't say anything, and that matches the language in Iowa Code, section 364.12. C says, the abutting property owner may be required by ordinance to maintain all property outside the lot and property lines, which is this parking area that we're talking about. They have to maintain it, they have to mow it, they have to remove ice and snow from the sidewalks. Outside the lot and the property lines and inside the curb lines, except that the property owner shall not be required to remove diseased trees or dead wood on the publicly owned property or right of way. Well, it doesn't say anything about, well, unless that dead wood is because a big wind came along and blew it down. The city's responsible for that dead wood, but more importantly, it's responsible for diseased trees. And there's a tree on Division Street, 508 North Division. It's got some green branch on it, but it's 95% dead. I don't need to be an arborist to tell you that is a diseased tree. And if that comes down on those people's house or in somebody's car, or comes down on the street and kills somebody, that's going to be a lawsuit against the city, because the city is responsible by Iowa code for that. And I'm not your attorney. I'm just giving my legal opinion, which
Jim, is that
my
the tree
wife.
that you guys have already sent out?
We
Or
have,
getting
yeah,
ready
that
to
is,
send out
that's
for
the
bid?
one that's on the list,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay. Well, I would say this tree falls in the same category. And, you know, you might have to hire somebody who does know how to say, especially at Emerald Ash Borer, we're gonna have a lot of trees that have to come down. And, you know, in addition to paying attorneys, you might have to pay a tree service, and we've got some good tree services, including a city employee who has a tree service. You know, you might have to hire them to take some trees down. But I think it's important that you guys know now, before the lawsuit, that this is something the city's
Right.
responsible for.
So the purpose of bringing it up was just to get a clear understanding of what it is and is it our responsibility? Because if we do clean this up like we're supposed to, it sounds like, you're gonna have more and more and more and more people coming to you saying, well, it's your job to clean up the thing. So I just wanted to make sure it was clear about whose responsibility it is and how we're gonna go about going from there. I mean, it's just more clarification than anything. And I'm sorry that it's your tree.
Well, that's fine. I mean,
I
it's
just want the clarification and to make sure that we're all on the same page and that Jim's clear
We're not
on,
on the same page here.
well,
Right.
but I'm hoping to get on the
Okay.
same page.
I understand.
And that we all are understanding the same rules and code sections and whatever, and that way
Thank-
Jim's
Thank you
clear.
for trying to do that and collect the background information on radio.
Yeah, and that way Jim's clear on what his obligation is to going forward.
And if we need any additional clarification, maybe that is something we ask Beverly to clarify, you know, for sure. I mean, we can sit here and read it. I can see it in the code here where it says that diseased and dead is not your responsibility. You know, and I don't want the fear of other people coming to us saying, hey, I got a diseased tree, keep us from doing what's right. You know,
Right.
that's the big thing.
It's the cleanup
Right.
that I was more wanting clarity on.
Oh, sure.
I mean, if the tree is dead, then they have no problem going. I don't think I've ever heard a complaint. It was just the removal of, hey, the storm came through, blew my tree over now, and it's dead, you know? Because before, we were putting that on the property owners, and lots of people have cleaned it up on their own. So with this one, I wanted to just put it out there and see what the rules were and get clarification on what we are supposed to be doing, so we are doing it in the right way. If that makes sense.
So
Steve, is
do
there
we
some-
need a motion
Just,
to have the city pay for it?
Steve, is there some other process that I guess is?
Well, there's a distinction if, I mean,
I think
Sure,
everybody's
Beverly would-
clear on it.
Just a minute, Steve's talking,
I
man.
think everybody's clear on it.
yeah, I mean, if it's in the right of way and it's diseased or dead, it's the city's obligation to take care of it. If a tree on somebody's property outside the right of way falls into the street, it's their obligation to take care of it. And the city may require you to take care of trees on your own property. There is this exception, as was pointed out, as it pertains to dead trees in the right of way.
So do we need a motion for the city to pay for this?
Yeah, I would think so.
I would move for that.
Hold on, I have a couple other questions. So the sidewalk, that's the same type of situation?
The sidewalk disease tree, again, it's the source of the tree. So if your tree fell on your neighbor's property, you'd be required as the owner of the tree to take care of it.
Same thing.
If it's a right of way issue, then it's.
The requirement to keep the sidewalk clear is earlier in section 364.
Right.
But
It's
I guess-
equal, I mean,
What I'm getting at is,
a property owner needs a permit to block the sidewalk, but
yeah, what I'm
if
getting at
if
is.
the sidewalk's blocked, the city's the one who's obligated to clear that. You know, if the kids can't get to the daycare because the sidewalk's blocked, and somebody complains to the city, it's up to the city to clear the sidewalk, same as they need to clear the street if the street's blocked by something.
So all I'm asking is, Jim's been operating under a policy that's been for how many years?
Over
A
15.
lot of years,
So,
a lot of years.
okay, so if that policy's not right, is there a proactive policy that Jim should be under to avoid a situation like this? To get to a,
That's been a policy for a long time.
Is that like an ordinance change or
That's what-
something?
yeah.
Well,
I
I
mean,
can't tell you as I sit here whether or not there's an ordinance in the city books that, I could look into that if you'd like.
Or Beverly can look at it.
I'm just saying, is there, should Jim, if Jim notices one,
We just-
at this address, should that person be notified, or, that's all, right? So if he would have been notified, or whoever owned the property 5 years ago, if this thing was dying and Jim noticed it, should we have, you know,
I think what we have in the code is now, we usually have Jim make the determination whether it's dead or not. Just having that, in this situation, that Christina was doing a good job trying to emphasize
Right.
the magnitude of it. So it doesn't happen in the future. She was
My
just
thing
trying
was
to
not whether the
demonstrate.
tree being upright is dead. My thing is once it falls in the street and we push it in the thing, is it the city's responsibility then to clean it up? Or is it the property owners? Because the policy has always been for the last 15 years that it's the property owner.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm trying to get clarity on,
Yeah.
is after it's already fallen in
From
the
storm
street.
damage.
From storm damage and pushed in. That's the part. Not whether it's standing and dead or alive. That's not my concern right now. It's whether it was blown over in a storm. So if we have a big storm come through tonight and we have 5 trees that are in the city right away that blow over in the street, is it the city's responsibility to go clean up every one of those? Because before, the policy was that, no, it was on the property owner. So that's why I'm trying to get clarity on.
Not if it's on their property line.
Just said if it was on the city side.
Okay.
That's what I'm trying to get
Thank
clarity
you. Thank you. You did a
once
good
it's
job.
down.
Yeah.
in the city. So
Move on,
the policy is now that we're going to clean them up because the code is.
move on.
And we have a motion by Greg, who's a safety to raise the cost.
And that includes rescinding the notices. that were sent.
Yes.
We have a second? Oh, Jim, go ahead.
While we're on the topic of trees, can I
Hey,
address something?
I'd like to throw one more thing in there before we make that motion.
Go ahead,
Add one more thing in there with that, before we make that motion.
go
I think
ahead.
that, you know, every time we turn around, we're dumping more stuff on Jim. And I think we need to back up a little bit on that stuff and maybe places with some council members, let them help out. But to keep, you know, dumping everything on Jim, I think that we're overloading him a little bit. And he has to have time to do stuff that he normally regularly does. So it's just trying to help him out.
Okay, go ahead, Jim.
While we're on the topic of trees,
Yeah.
Oh, do we need to finish this motion?
Yes,
To
moved
get
by
that tree
Glass.
taken before Jim finishes, to get that
Yeah.
tree taken care of,
Yeah,
This
moved
one.
by Glass.
to go ahead and take care
Do
of
we
it.
have a second?
I'll second it.
Second by Askren. How do you vote, Belden?
I don't think we have a choice on this. I mean,
Renzo?
Yes.
Glass?
Yes.
Askren?
Yes.
Kaba?
Yes.
Okay, Jim. Tell me how many we have.
okay, while we're on the topic of trees, if you guys want to change the policy, that's fine. It's your determination to do that, that's fine. Keep 2 things in mind. We are limited staff and we have limited funds. Keep that in mind. Okay, one day during the rain we had a couple, 3 weeks ago, Corey and I did a tree survey of just the ash trees that are in the right of way. We encountered 92 ash trees in the right of way that are beginning to show signs of distress. There are 34 trees in the sports complex alone that are showing signs of distress, ash trees. And this is just a tree down and gone. It's not growing. And the trees that we're looking at, you're averaging 12 tree. So at 126 trees, you got $151,200 in ash trees, probably in the next 3 years.
Jim, I have a question. Can we alert the property owners where you found those trees? Alert them to the fact of what you saw and that they are gonna be liable for that? I mean,
Well, according to the way Warren read the ordinance and you guys just approved, they're not liable for it. We
But
are.
that's what I was asking Jim and Christina, is exactly what she's saying. Can we change the process so we be proactive about it and we do notify them? I mean, that's what, I mean, is that
But I think
something we can?
the notification isn't gonna do anything, it's still on city right away.
Absolutely,
It's
still
still
right away.
city
You have no
responsibility.
These are just the ones in the right of way. These are not the ones on private property.
But if you just start with the right of way, can you mitigate the, you know what I mean, the ones that are gonna, but again, it goes, you know.
Eventually, they're all gonna go. I mean, these are just the ones that are starting to show signs. We've got 3 in the city park that have to come out.
Well,
One at the pool.
1 at the pool, 34 at the sports complex.
I would think that alerting the property owners would, I mean, I think they would assume some responsibility to,
We can't get property owners to trim the trees to the proper height over the sidewalk and the street most times.
And
I
that
don't think
is
a
in our
property
code.
owner's
I
gonna
mean,
wanna
that's
voluntarily
sad
pay
but
for a
true.
tree they know that somebody else is liable for. Here's the other thing is, while we're kind of looking at this, can we maybe look at changing an ordinance to prevent trees being planted in the future in the right of way? So that way we don't have this problem going down the road. And B, is there any grants or any kind of assistance? Because this isn't just a Stuart, Iowa problem, this is a national problem. To see if maybe there's things out there that can help ease the cost because.
To prevent any species of tree from being planted right away will actually save the property owner, because you look at how many times property owners have planted the tree and the roots are now in their sanitary and they've got to dig it up and replace it. So that's another add-on to that as well.
Okay.
Thanks.
Okay,
Thanks, Jim.
thanks,
Thanks,
Jim.
Jim.
Thank you.
Next one. 8, police department, you have some figures, Ash?
Yeah,
Good 8 days.
Some questions.
Okay,
we usually just 2 years, a few years ago, we always add that item to the agenda. When they go out and work at the house for the good 8 days. Last year, we didn't have the good 8 days, so we didn't see it. This year, we have 2 officers that, you want to put extra hours to $663.
I make the motion to pass that.
Okay.
I have some questions. Questions
Okay.
first.
go ahead.
You want me to go ahead, Ash?
Yeah, I'll just explain more.
Okay, and it's not so much questions as clarification.
Yeah.
On,
We allocated $10,000 to the police department. And at the time, we gave them the adjustment of the wages. And I think that would be something that can be used with the fund.
and how much is this?
Then $663.36.
Okay.
and so that,
Each or?
Total.
so that comes out,
The overtime line item that we.
that comes out of the overtime/vacation line,
Yes,
So
correct?
we should not need to look at this.
Yeah.
It shouldn't be on the agenda go forward.
No,
No,
Right.
just, we got used to it. on the
Yeah.
agenda,
Right.
That's all.
But we can clarify this year
Yeah.
that next time we don't have to because
No,
it's coming,
all right,
they
good.
have a line item on their
Good.
budget,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So we shouldn't have to.
so we got a motion from Askren,
Second by Glass.
second by Glass.
Yeah.
Okay, how do you vote? Belvin?
Yes.
Renslow?
Yes.
Glass?
Yes.
Askren?
Yeah,
Kavah?
Yes.
Okay, public forum. You got
Okay,
something?
just an update from the Southwest 7, that stop for the
Yes.
speed. I talked to Jim today, and Jim is just, go ahead.
We looked at that. I have yet to talk to Dave.
I have you on camera.
Opportunity to talk to Police Chief Rehaw yet, but in conversation with Ash, and Nadine is working on the resolution for the August council meeting. The north side of North 7th Street will be classified as no parking from Division to Black Hills. And then the south side of 7th Street will just be no parking for, I measured it 330 feet from Division Street west to the opening to Casey's Fuel Lane.
Right, okay.
There'll be signage there that's no parking here to corner. The other side will be, every block will be signed, no parking this side of the street.
So is that just kind of a recommendation that you feel is needed on
Dave?
Southwest and Dave?
Dave kind of had the same thing, we just
Okay.
haven't talked about that, and then the speed signage issues on 8th Street.
Okay, because, my concern was mainly right there by the parking lots, so
Yep.
if you do the whole thing, I guess that just.
Well,
That's
that'll
fine.
follow continuity with everything else, because
Perfect,
down that side.
perfect. All right.
Okay.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Jim.
Thanks. Anybody have anything? Yep, Mike.
Well, I just wonder in
Could you please come up to the podium, please?
In 2016, you guys looked at the turning trucks over here and DOT told you you couldn't do that. Why do you think things have changed now?
They never told us we couldn't do it.
I'm
Will
pretty sure they
you,
did.
will you explain that to me? What you mean?
Well, in 2016, you guys looked at closing the four-way down here, two trucks turning, like you're talking about doing now. And DOT told you you couldn't do that.
Told us that we could not, that we have to allow those trucks to turn, is that what
What
you're
do
saying?
you suggest we do to mitigate the upwards of $7 million of expenses on the city's taxpayers?
I don't control your budget. That's
Okay,
not
well, I'm
my-
just saying, that's
If
what
you
we're trying
reroute
to do.
them somewhere else, you're gonna have problems on other roads too.
I guess
I
we're doing
mean-
the best we can, so.
I just asked a question about what do you think has changed? Because you were on the council.
Yeah,
in
and they didn't say
2016.
that. That's
Is
not
that
what they
in
said.
writing? Do you have that, Mike? Can you email it to Nadine?
I don't have it in
You don't have it?
writing, no. We all had we had a meeting about it
Okay.
and they said that.
I was in that meeting, that's not what was said, but that's fine.
Okay. All right.
Too long ago.
Thank you.
I'm Andy Anderson, and I am an attorney, but you guys don't pay me.
You're
So
hired.
rest, breathe easy. I represent Poet, the new owner of the ethanol plant, and I actually did represent Poet, or Flint Hills when they owned it as well. And so, wanted to, Poet is happy to be in the community. As you may have heard, they bought the 6 ethanol plants that Flint Hills owns. And so they did that June 1st, they took over ownership. And so they're, Poet's based in, their arms around each plant and what the, get out into the community and do the things that they need to do to kind of integrate those plants into their larger ethanol operations. There, a lot of things will stay the same because the general manager will be the same general manager. He's jumped over, and most employees have jumped over. But they are, interested in what's going on in the community. Certainly, one of the issues I seem to realize, be familiar with this White Hill Road issue is an issue that all of you have, and we're certainly concerned about it. And so Poets, they don't know enough to take a position one way or the other, but they want to learn more about it and figure out, what their position is. They do know that they've had a really good relationship with the county and with the supervisors. The county helped develop the plant and helped give tax abatement and do things that were, positive and helped incent the plant. So we've got a good relationship. So I will tell you that annexation is not something that they're supportive of. They would oppose that. But we also know that the plant's here, we're not moving it. It's not like it can be picked up and go anywhere. So I think they want to be able to have a good relationship with Stuart, a good relationship with Menlo, good relationship with the county, and, try to make sure that, things are productive and the plant can be economically sustained. So I just wanted you to know that, I'm here and we've been talking to some of you and talking to the county and talking to the city, talking to Steve Brick here, and I know him, he's a good attorney, so I've known him for a long time. But so we do oppose annexation, and we want you to know that, there's not a lot of benefit for the plant to have it done. And so we just want to make sure we got that on the record, but as things move along, we'll see where things go. And, but we're also open to discussions and, talking with the supervisors and talking with Menlo, and, we want this to be a productive, positive relationship. So that's all I'm here to say.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes.
I'm Josh Sieber, I'm the Guthrie County Engineer. And I'd like to add a point of clarification to Mike's point, what he was referencing with the DOT. Their hesitation where they were expressing concern was that these are farm to market extensions, and limiting turning movements and limiting traffic would go against the theory of the purpose of farm to market roadways.
That's why we provided another route.
But they're not, these are designated farm to market routes.
Does the city get farm market funds?
I believe so. Because the county receives farm to market funding for cities with population under 500. So like Menlo, Casey, Bagley.
Do we get those funds, Ash?
It could come through the road use tax fund. It could come through some other sources, but there should be some funding source for that. So that's
I mean,
one.
we've applied for grants. Kristen applied for grants. I think she actually worked with you on that probably 5 to 7 years ago. That was denied. We've reached out to the county for participation on this issue several times. It's been, not agreed upon. And so, I mean, we went through this bond issue. I mean, it's just kind of we're doing the best we can to provide another route to be reviewed by Forest and, improve the road on the budget what we can. So,
Everything that you guys have battled and concerned with, that you're describing every county and every city.
Well, see, that's not true, because Guthrie Center in Kenora is a state-funded highway. So in Greenfield, so when that road gets deteriorated, the state funds that. That is not, this falls on the city limits and the taxpayers of people of this town.
The city of Kenora they paid for part of the P28 extension.
Okay, I was talking about Highway 44. Yeah.
Right, yeah. But, no, it's a concern. The demand on the roads is going up and the road funding isn't keeping up. It's a challenge that we all face.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Josh.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody else have anything?
Interesting.